Hello and welcome everyone to this special Halloween edition of Tactics Time with Chess University. My name is Ryan Murphy, and today I wanted to present to you guys a nice miniature as a game with fewer than 25 moves, played in a appropriately themed opening for Halloween. So this is a miniature in the Frankenstein-Dracula Variation of the Vienna Game. So we're going to see what that is in a second. And it was played in a simul in the year 1900, and the simul giver for this particular game was Jacques Mieses. He's got a couple of different openings named after him. Most notably, there's a Mieses variation of the Scotch, which is actually quite popular. So in any case, let's look at the game. It features a really nice tactical shot at the end, so hopefully you guys will be able to solve the puzzle at the end of the game. So the game started with e4, e5. White went with the bishop's opening move order with bishop c4. You'll see this a lot in scholastic games where white tries to bring the queen out early to deliver a really quick mate against f7. And while white has actually very aggressive intentions in this game that are kind of similar to the scholastic mate on f7. So black plays knight f6, white plays knight c3, which is a transposition into the Vienna, where white chooses to develop the queenside knight before the kingside knight, with some hopes of being able to play for f4. That's one of the main ideas. And now black goes for a very typical simplifying tactic involving a fork with knight take e4. Now, if you've never seen this before, I guess you can pause the video and see what black's up to, because it looks like a terrible blunder at first sight. But what happens if white takes the knight? Okay, so if you guys have seen this tactic before, it's pretty easy. After knight takes knight, black plans on regaining the piece with d5, and then after bishop d3, pawn takes, and bishop takes, black is the only one left with a pawn in the center. Black has very free development, and black's thought to have a very fine game. So the Frankenstein-Dracula variation begins here, where instead of taking and then going into that line where black regains the piece with d5, white goes for the very aggressive move queen h5. And here there's really only two decent moves for black to keep the game close to parity. In order, they have to defend this square on f7. Now, obviously, queen e7 isn't as good as it was earlier, or it allows this trick to not work, essentially, because now the queen's no longer protecting the d5 square. So queen e7 would be maybe some people's choice, but it doesn't work here because the knight on e4 is still hanging. Basically the knight has to save itself and defend the mate. The two moves that do that are knight g5 and knight d6, and knight d6 is the more popular move, which was played in the game. It also sort of gains a tempo against the bishop. Now, of course, it's possible for white to take the gambited pawn back, but then the thing is, after queen e7, we get a queen trade, the bishop drops back. It's kind of lame. It's just a middle game without queens, completely symmetrical pawn structure. You're not going to get a very exciting Halloween-themed finish in a game like this. So this wouldn't feature very well in a Tactics Time video, most likely. So instead of taking the pawn back, white treats it like a real gambit and simply drops the bishop back to b3 to keep this pressure on f7. So the game continued. Bishop e7. Black would like to castle quickly, which is a good idea. When someone's gambiting a pawn against you in the opening, they're probably hoping that you keep your king in the center longer than you have to. White goes d3 to open up the bishop. Castle, knight f3, knight c6. Black has a very reasonable position here, and probably white should take this pawn back on e5 objectively, but in a simul, often the simul giver's looking to end games as quickly as possible, so they have less to think about as the simul continues. And so white just goes for the kill, sort of maximum disrespect for the opponent, and plays the move knight g5. Here black responds with h6 to try to remove this knight, but again, I wouldn't be showing this if the knight simply retreated. Like a move knight back to e4 is not going to produce a miniature. So how do you think white continued the attack here? Alright, if you said h4, then you've seen this kind of trick before. It's a very nice way to try to sacrifice a piece. Of course, if they take, it's going to be mate. It's unavoidable. You have this battery on the h-file, and queen h8 is unstoppable. Notice that can't even play the move f6 legally because the bishop is pinning the pawn. So black couldn't even dream about creating a flight square. So it's just going to be mate. Yeah, and probably here after h4, a move like knight d4 is prudent to eliminate this really strong bishop. And then later black can try to find a way to get the c8 bishop in the game, and things will be fine. White is wasting a lot of time in the opening with the queen. And, of course, white is still a pawn down. So as long as black doesn't get mated here, they should be doing quite well. In the game, black played a terrible move after h4, which was the move knight e8. which first and foremost just undefends this f7 pawn. So I actually have no idea why white didn't just take here, because this wins material. The queen is essentially trapped, so they have to take it. But this will lead to a very swift mate. For example, if king h8, this is already checkmate, and if the king were to go to g8, sorry, to h7 from g8 instead, then we're going to chase him out this way. The king this is a very nice king hunt, and now after g6, or king g4 is also possible, moving the king, then there would be queen g6 mate, but we'll just finish it like this. So that would have been another nice way the game could have ended, but instead Mieses went with knight d5 here, which is actually not even winning if black plays knight d4 and tries to eliminate this really powerful bishop on b3. But instead, black played the move knight f6, and now there's more than one way to win. But I'll let you guys pause the video and see if you can find the way that Mieses chose to finish this. It's a really, really beautiful move, and it's not even a forcing move, which is, I think, what makes it so nice. So pause the video and see if you can play like Mieses. Okay, yeah, and this is the final move of the game. White played the move queen to g6, which is just a really aesthetically pleasing move to make. And of course it's a queen sacrifice, but the nice thing is if the queen is taken, it's immediately going to be a very nice mate. So if pawn takes g6, if you saw this mate, very good job. Knight take e7 is a very effective double check by knight and bishop. King has to go to h8, that's the only move. And now knight takes g6, where both knights and the bishop are contributing to entomb this king on the side of the board in the corner. So after queen g6, that is what happens if the queen is accepted. If black just plays some normal move which ignores what white is doing, for example like d6, well, this gets mated in a different way. We remove the defender and then simple mate on h7. And of course the only way to actually continue the game would be to try to remove the king from these checks. So like king h8 is a very hard move to play, but this just gives away material for nothing, and white has an ongoing attack. So queen g6 is a very nice way to finish a chess game. It's unfortunate that black didn't allow the mate or something. That would have been even better. But I hope you guys solved this tactic. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a great rest of your Halloween.